Yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining my talk. What's new in the Eclipse Platform project? Let me shortly introduce myself. I'm Karsten, work for a software consulting company called Karakun. I live in Dortmund. Yeah, I'm pretty enthusiastic regarding open source development. Yeah, I'm part of some Eclipse projects and contribute to open source projects. Today's talk is about the Eclipse Platform project, and I want to take a look what has happened since last Eclipse Con last year, and a little bit into the future. I plan to keep this talk a little bit complementary to things that you might have already seen in other sessions today and yesterday. For example, if you followed right before my session, they talk about the migration of the build infrastructure of the Eclipse Platform project. That's not part of my talk. And also, JDT was, the changes in JDT was shown by Jeff Johnson yesterday. This won't be the topic here. So with each release, we know that we have now quarterly releases, and each second release also a new Java version has to be supported. So since last year, we had 3 Java versions that came in, and but JDT is not topic here. To give you a little bit insight in what has happened behind the scenes. It's not really a feature presentation today. At the end, I will, if time permits, I will skip to Eclipse and show you maybe one or two goodies, but I will also give you links to more detailed list of features that have been added since last year. First, I want to have a look what has happened in the community of the Eclipse platform. And like every year, people come and go, and we have every year the committers are cleaned up. For inactive committers, there have been a couple new people stepped up, namely Alex Blewett and Andrei Bochovic. We really value the efforts that recent new committers are doing, and especially also the work that past committers have done. I've compiled a little bit download stats of the most popular packages of Eclipse Java IDE. That's the distribution for Java developers and enterprise Java developers, and the CDT distribution. And recently, more important becomes also the Eclipse installer. We see here that downloads are 3 million times per quarter, and if we expect that with the installer at least one installation of Eclipse happens, you see that we have a couple of million users out there. There are estimations that roughly 4 million Eclipse users are there. Package sizes did not really change since last year a little bit, but if you have a look at the CDT package, it is now bigger. And the reason is that's a package that now ships with OpenJDK. And we expect that this will be added for the other packages quite soon also. Also important is the social activity of the Eclipse community, and most mentionably is the Eclipse Java IDE Twitter account, which has been introduced in 2017, and nowadays has 6. And there all news are pronounced which are happening in Eclipse Java IDE, and also users are that need help are responded, and especially Mika Illustria is doing a tremendous job on asking each and every user which is complaining what is actually the specific issue to gather information what can be done about that. Michael also introduced a new campaign through the social media called One Trivial Bucket Week. So we tweet simple bugs that might get solved by new committers. It's not that successful yet as we want. Yeah. So what we also see is that we have many code cleanups happening in the code base, and we have a quite large code base. The platform itself is roughly 40K classes and 7 million lines of code, and yeah, this has to be maintained. And the code base partially looks older, and it's quite also important to clean this up. And a couple of people are stepping in there and yeah, provide changes with cleanups, and mostly we merge them for the first milestone with each release cycle. These are partially manual things, but we see more and more cleanups that happen through automatic actions like the Eclipse cleanup actions, and also we are adding more and more cleanups to Eclipse JDT. Important also is that we work also on removing API that's no longer used. Sometimes we have API that's yeah, already deprecated since many years, and everything is documented what is planned for removal or will be removed. And yeah, sometimes you should also have a look on what's happening here. We had recently a situation that we got rid of one method in platform, which was deprecated since 15 years. And when we now removed that, then we had a client, namely Rational Software Architect, which said, okay, yeah, that broke me. So yeah, this can happen, yeah, but it has been announced quite long, and I think it's important that we also get rid of things that are really old and where is a good alternative is available. Maybe the next thing that where we are currently in the process of removal, you should have an eye look on is the iPlatform runnable interface. There in platform there is no usage anymore, but we have for example an SWT bot, still one open issue there, and I could imagine also that there are products outside that are relying on this. Next thing we should talk about is yeah, the new requirement that we require now Java 11 as a runtime, and this is a requirement from the current version on. Increasingly more bundles are now declaring an upgrade from BREE 8 to 11, and this means that products won't run on a Java 8 runtime anymore. As you see before, CDT has already started packaging a JRE with their distribution, and this is thanks to a new project called justj, which provides OpenJDK builds as consumable units that can be packaged with Eclipse. And yeah, when all the Eclipse packages will be shipped with such a JRE, yeah, no user would have problems running Eclipse because of the wrong runtime anymore. Another thing that is constantly improved is the work on the dark theme. There's small changes pouring in where we see some flaws in background coloring and icon work. You may have seen the talk from Matthias Becker, who is working on on providing higher resolution icons for Eclipse IDE, and we're incorporating this more and more. And so over the time, the IDE looks more and more cleaner on the dark theme. There have been some changes which were operating system specific, like the background colors of menus and scroll bars, which were, for example, Windows are still light on a dark theme, which has been fixed. But there's still work to do. For example, in JDT, you see decorators for the classes and fields and so, which do not render nicely on a dark background. Another thing that always gets improved from release to release is performance. And performance is divided into two things. We have performance in the startup, where we take care that Eclipse users recognize that the IDE comes up very fast, and performance when you work with the IDE. Actually, the on the startup performance, there has not been done so much during the last year. It's quite similar, but Alex Blewett has provided a new means for registering resource change listener, which needs adoption throughout the code base, how resource change listeners are registered. And then we can expect that the startup performance again increases, since the resources plugin does not necessarily need to be loaded up front. And on the interactive side, many things have been done where we experience UI freezes, and we try to tackle this down. And also we make more use of asynchronous operations, like for content assist. And things are really now paying off. We see on the social media that users really recognize that something is happening here. Another nice feature which has been available already since 4.10 are link handlers. That's the possibility to register custom URI schemes to Eclipse IDE. What has been new is that there is now already a default URI handler to handle URIs for Eclipse commands, and you can add also your own. And this allows you to send links around, which will open Eclipse IDE and perform certain actions. So you could actually send a link to your colleague with an action like check out a repository, and the IDE would start and perform that action. And you can, as this is not restricted to the IDE, you can add your own link handlers to through an extension point, which enables you to links for your custom RCP applications or plugins. Let's have a look at operating systems. On Linux side, for the Linux user, the important change is here that the GTK minimal version has been raised to 3.20. This normally should not affect normal Linux users, since modern Linux distributions are already on a newer version. But this was an important change because this blocked the work on supporting GTK4, which is now starting now. Okay, so another thing that has been now added is support for a new embedded web browser, namely Chromium. This was a feature request which was raised 7 years ago, and it's actually a larger portion of work, and this was done through, I think it was one of the most commented bugs reports in the past years with 150 entries or so. But now it's done, and it's possible now to use Chromium as the embedded web browser within Eclipse or for your applications. And all you need to do is then to specify a system property to use Chromium by default, and install also the Chromium browser extension. The development of that larger feature was actually funded by a program in Eclipse I was not aware of, and also the page says, okay, that's outdated, but you may should be just aware that there is a program for Friends of Eclipse to distribute the money that Friends of Eclipse users contribute to developers of the platform. Another important thing that is now worked on, and it's definitely not final, as you may not have heard that Apple has announced this will move their hardware from Intel to their own homegrown silicons based on of course, they also provide some kind of compatibility layer upfront, which is called Rosetta 2, to execute binaries built for Intel processors to run also on the new hardware. But we expect that this performs not well. So there needs to be some action from our side. So where is our participation needed? That's especially first upfront on SWT side. SWT ships some native binaries, and they have against the new target. And so this means that that we have to build such a so-called universal, which support both platforms. To build such things, these binaries, we need a build infrastructure, and actually there is no build infrastructure yet for ARM64 target architecture yet, and it's we will need also Java running on this architecture, but at the moment there is actually no OpenJDK available yet. The Adopt OpenJDK project started to raise an issue there, and they want to provide such builds in the future, but of course we have to rely on that we actually have that some. I'm not sure how fast this can be solved. Maybe we get more known throughout the conference. We have a couple things that we are challenging. What are challenges at the moment, and where we need help. First of all, we got and all the contributions come up in our Gerrit Queue. Currently, for Eclipse Platform, there are roughly 450 open changes that need to be reviewed, to be polished, maybe abandoned, and this consumes quite a lot of time. The amount of changes is roughly the same as last year, which means that we are capable of roughly handle the amount of incoming changes. But we also have very old, really unlikely that to be taken up by the original contributors. Or at least we cannot expect then if we react 2 years after submitting a change that the original contributor will then react on our review comments. So we should also have a look on how to pick those changes and polish them to be included in the IDE. And there you can help. And not only on reviewing changes, to work to do. We have to react on all the bug reports that we get in. People that have issues or enhancement requests, they should get feedback from us. And time is limited. There are only few people really working full-time on Eclipse platform, and most people are using this, working on this as side project or even in spare time. And the more people we can attract, the better we can become. And our task is to get more contributors that help us working together. Okay, more to know. As I said, I don't want to make a real feature show. You should be aware of Holger Foreman's tremendous screencasts which show all the changes that have been added to Eclipse Java IDE with each release. And since we still have time, we can have a small look into Eclipse, into some nice features which I value each day. First, maybe to mention is that we finally are able to customize the font here in the tree views. Previously, this was relying on the system font size, which is small. And so if you look now here to this section here, we can now change the fonts here. I'll make it maybe smaller. So that's one good thing here. Maybe I also should have a look now at the questions. Should there be an error log warning issued for use of an API which is scheduled for removal in a release or two? That's a good question. Let me think. On the interface side, I think this is not really possible, but one important thing is also we should not flood the log whenever this, and it's very likely that some of those methods are called very, very often. There has been recently a contribution by Wim Jongman where we had a similar situation. Namely, when you have some property tester for within the plugin XML for property tester which is not available, and whenever this property gets tested, it flooded up the problems view. And here's introduced a new means to throttle this these kind of messages. Please just repeat this warning or error once, and then don't write it again into the log until you have restarted Eclipse, or after a certain amount of time or so. That's currently limited to the very specific location of property testers. And when this is showing up that is good to have also at other places, then we should move this to a more central code, and then we could use this also for supporting error logs. But I don't think that we should really issue through log whenever the method is called. Jens is asking, wouldn't it make sense to move from Gerrit to GitHub in order to attract more developers? Um, issue is here, why GitHub? Many projects are using GitHub, right? For hosting their source code, but the Eclipse Foundation has also recently instance. So projects are free to choose between different places where to host and the code, and then you would have also a split up of where to host the issues. I think this. I'm not sure. Actually, I like Gerrit. It was a little bit yeah, tricky. Now when working with Eclipse Platform on reviewing changes, I actually like this. What a little bit misses is direct interaction. Yeah, edit code may see changes a little bit better just for by instead of clicking from one file to one to another. And maybe there an integration with Gitpod could be a good option, which is now provided for GitHub and GitLab. You could set up a Gitpod instance for rev changes in the Gerrit. Michael is saying we are migrating to 4.16 of the platform, and some behavior like the toolbar is different on Windows 10 and Windows 7. Any idea why? Actually, no. But from my current project, I also see that all the three different platforms, and to make things looking exactly different platforms, that's quite a tricky thing. And for example, if you have menus that have separators and you have sections which where no menu entry is actually shown, on Mac, you actually don't see the multiple separators. On Windows, you see separators without content, and all these to be solved across the platforms. So I have 3 minutes left. Are there any more questions that I've overseen? Does not seem so. Then I have chance to make you aware of also one nice thing is control free now also is yeah, non-modal dialogue, and what makes it also now interesting, you search for also for resources yeah, by typing parts of the name, and a nice UX feature which I use from everyday on everyday basis, which I don't really realize that it's it got better, is subword completion. So if you make content assist on methods, and you have a setter like set maximum, and you just type max, then you see in the content assist also the set and get maximum method, and you don't have to start with set. And also it's case case insensitive now. Okay, my time is now up. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and don't forget to rate the talk. And yeah, I hope that you get in contact with us and help us moving the platform project forwards. Thanks for your attention. Bye.